Well, let's get started. Good evening to all of you who are joining us this evening via Zoom. On behalf of Deborah Travis, President of the Montgomery County, Radford City, Floyd County branch of the NAACP, and Elizabeth Obenchain, President of the League of Women Voters, Montgomery County, I welcome you to the Radford City Council Candidate Forum. My name is Karen Jones. I serve as the Political Action Chair for our branch of the NAACP, and together with Peggy Lane, Chair of the Voter Services Committee for the Montgomery chapter of the League of Women Voters, and Janet Hahn, who is also a member of the local league, we organized and planned tonight's forum. And tonight I will also serve as the moderator of the forum. And we also have three other people joining us who will serve as Q&A sorters: Ms. Peggy Lane, Ms. Carolyn Rood, and Allison Wilson. And Janet Hahn will be our timekeeper. I'll share more information about their roles in just a few moments. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge to everyone Governor Northam's recommendation that the May 5th election be moved to November. This recommendation must be voted on by the General Assembly on April 22nd when it reconvenes. Until this decision is made, we are proceeding and the information we share is relevant to the May 5th election. But what I'm excited about is that each of your city council candidates wanted this opportunity to talk with you. So whether you vote in May, June, or November, they still want to connect with you. What I'm going to do now is just share with you all kind of the format of tonight's forum and just some additional helpful information. And I just created just some slides so you can read along while I talk. So the guidelines for tonight's forum, this is a virtual guideline. And what we want to do is to provide as close to the same experience as you would have if we were sitting together at Radford High's auditorium. And so here's how tonight's forum will work. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and tell why they are running for office. Questions for tonight's forum have all come from you all. Questions were sent in advance via email or by completing a form we shared on Facebook and email. During the forum, you will also be able to submit questions using the Q&A box. That Q&A box you should be able to see at the bottom of the screen once I stop sharing these slides. We are asking that if you submit questions in the Q&A box, that you submit those anonymously by checking the box that's labeled anonymous. The Q&A sorters have pre-screened questions just for duplication and variety. They will do the same for questions submitted in the Q&A box. This year, and this is different from what we typically do, at the conclusion of the forum, we will provide the candidates with a list of all questions submitted. And again, just to let you all know that we may not get to all the questions that you asked tonight, but we will share those. And all the questions that we ask have only been pre-screened for duplication and variety. As the moderator, I will address each question to all candidates, and I will rotate the order in which the questions are asked between candidates. Questions will be answered by all candidates. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to answer each question. A rebuttal will be allowed for up to 1 minute per question. Candidates will only be able to offer 1 rebuttal per question. The timekeeper will hold up a sign indicating when you have 1 minute, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and when time is up. And at the conclusion, each candidate will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. And during that closing statement, you can address anything that you wish. We also, while we're on Zoom, just want to provide you with a few audience tips. So for screen visibility, we have set the view so that the candidate or person speaking will be the most prominent view. You can also change that setting yourself, and you'd want to choose the speaker gallery view. Also, using the Q&A box, again, you should find that at the bottom of your screen, and we do ask that you submit questions anonymously by checking the Send Anonymously button before clicking Send. You all will not be able to see the questions that we are gonna ask. And if you're joining us today by phone audio, unfortunately, you don't have the same functionality, but the links are still available if you want to submit questions on email, and we will share those questions later with the candidates. Just a few quick voter resources for you all. The Vote 411 Guide, which all the candidates for tonight's City Council Forum, as well as the School Board Forum, have completed. You can find those at vote411.org, or you can download those at either of our websites. For up-to-date and current information about the elections, to get a absentee ballot or anything else, you can visit elections.virginia.gov, but you can also call the Radford City Director of Elections with any questions. Just some important dates, and again, these are in reference to the May 5th election. Mail-in absentee ballots, April 28th is the last day to request. In-person absentee voting ends on May the 2nd, and election day, at least until April 22nd, is going to be on May 5th with polls open until 7 p.m. And just some information to get in touch with the League of Women Voters or the NAACP. You can find our websites, emails, and social media, and we would love to hear from you all. And now I'm really excited. We're getting ready to start the forum with each of our candidates. We have their information as well. Mr. Onassis Burris, Mr. Andrew Crane, Dr. Dick Harshberger, and Mr. Forrest Height are all joining us this evening. And so welcome to everyone. How are you all this evening? Great.
Well, doing well.
Great. So we're going to get started with our very first question. And again, we will be doing those kind of round robin. We'll start first with each of you all being able to introduce yourselves, and you will have 2 minutes to do so. You all should see Janet in the top corner of the screen. She will hold up how much time that you all have left, okay? And so we'll get started with Mr. Onassis Burris.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you, Karen, or good evening, rather. I just want to thank the League of Women Voters and NAACP for facilitating this forum tonight and giving each of us an opportunity to really introduce ourselves to the Radford citizens here. We find ourselves in a very interesting predicament in terms of what the pandemic has done as far as impeding our ability to reach our constituents door to door. So this is a great forum. I appreciate your efforts for doing so. My name is Onassis Burris. I am, a Radford native as of 3 years, and I've enjoyed my time here. I did marry a local woman who brought me to the area, and I'm thankful for that. My background is in corporate and business management in terms of overseeing large capital projects, everything from large capital projects, capital budgeting, what have you. But the biggest passion I have is for the city of Radford. We chose Radford to be our home because it has such great elements that will make this a great community if given the right direction, the right love. One of the things I foresee serving as a city councilman is just giving back. I've been fortunate to serve as the president of the Chamber of Commerce for Radford, City of Radford. I've served on boards, and I've also volunteered a lot within the community. So I see this as the next level of giving back to a city that's given so much to me. So I thank you for this opportunity, and I thank the Radford citizens for the opportunity to become your next city council member as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next candidate will be Mr. Andrew Crane.
Hi, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and the NAACP as well for hosting this forum, especially in light of the difficult circumstances brought on by the pandemic. My name is Andrew Crane. I'm an engineer. I've been here in Radford for about 5 years, and like Mr. Burris, I was brought here by my wife, who was living here before me. I'm running for council because, in brief, I believe in good governance. City Council has a duty to provide the infrastructure and services that our citizens need. They also have a duty to be good stewards of the city's finances. We also have a duty to hear our fellow citizens' needs and be their voices in government. And back when I was able to meet with citizens face to face, when I was walking around and knocking on doors, I found that a lot of people were willing to share their issues with me, but they were either unwilling or unable to come before council. and I would like to be a voice for those citizens. We're living in exceptional times because of this pandemic, and I believe my background as an engineer and my interest in government give me the tools to help our city in the coming years by serving on City Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Dick Harshberger.
For giving us this opportunity. Originally, I wanted to run again for City Council because we had built such a strong program, and the city was in wonderful shape. We were adding resources, and I wanted to share in the triumph of overcoming some of the challenges we had and go on to build a better Radford. And then somehow that changed a little. When we had the pandemic, our revenues have taken a huge hit. That will be our biggest challenge. And I get excited when I have challenges. I always have risen to the challenge. And in this particular case, I'm a fiscal conservative and a social liberal, but fiscal conservativeness doesn't extend to what we need now from the government. We need to take every opportunity, and I will fight for every dime that we can to help our city recover and prosper. And I happen to have some background in that because I, at one time at Virginia Tech, I was the person responsible for working with all the principal investigators to help them maximize the effectiveness of their applications for grant funds and so on. And we have a lot of challenges I want to follow up. And one of them, of course, is housing. And we have now a new housing study coming out. And I'm excited about that because it's going to help us lay out the framework for a whole new renewing of our infrastructure for independent single-family dwellings in this city for middle-class families. And that's badly needed. And I'm very excited about that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And our next candidate is Mr. Forrest Height.
Hello there. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the NAACP for hosting this forum. Thank you to my fellow candidates for being willing to serve the city of Radford and for being willing to have a conversation tonight. And thank you to all of you watching from home. This has been a strange and unique campaign. I'm unfortunately not able during this time to come to your door and have one-on-one conversations with you. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to what we candidates have to say tonight. My name is Forrest Height. I'm running for Radford City Council. I've lived in Radford for 10 years now, and quite simply, it's home. My dad was in the Air Force, so I moved around a lot as a kid, saw a lot of different places around the country, but there's no place like the New River City. My wife Tatiana and I just got married here last year, bought a house on the East End, and this is where we want to raise our family. I care about this community. I'm invested in it. Radford has been good to me, and now I want to return the favor and serve my friends and neighbors as councilman. So here's why I feel equipped to do so. I've worked at a local Christian nonprofit, Heart Cry Missionary Society, for over 9 years. My primary roles there are as data administrator, managing our donor database, and editor, both overseeing some larger projects, as well as grammatically editing our publications. So dealing with words and numbers is pretty much my daily life. And through that, I've gained an attention to detail that I think would prove valuable on City Council, whether when examining budgets and policies, hearing from citizens, or taking votes. So Radford, if you'll have me, I'm ready to take on this challenge. I'd appreciate your vote in this election.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you for sharing who you are with us. And so we're going to get started with our first question of the evening. And so our first question is, are there things that the City Council can do to help small businesses and local restaurants stay in business in downtown Radford during the coronavirus so the city can revive after we are again allowed to resume normal life? I'll just repeat that because that was a pretty long, heavy question. Are there things that the City Council can do to help small businesses and local restaurants stay in business in downtown Radford during the coronavirus so the city can revive after we are again allowed to resume normal life? And we will start with Andrew Crane to answer this question first.
Okay. I assume this is going beyond what measures they have already talked about in City Council, because I believe that City Council has already talked about deferring certain payments and things, or allowing certain payments to be deferred by small businesses for the next few months. Beyond that, I mean, certainly encouraging citizens to as much as they can, because different citizens are in different circumstances with the current situation with the pandemic. But encouraging citizens to participate and to utilize the services that they can, that are the businesses that are still able to operate. I think that's really important, and we've been trying to do our part with that. Beyond that, I mean, I think it's going to be difficult to work anything into the budget at this point that would be any kind of tax incentives or anything like that that we would be able to do on the short term. I think the hope is that we're able to come through this pretty quickly if everyone can shelter in place, and we can get through the pandemic and then emerge on the other side relatively speedily. I did see the presentation by City Council last week talking about the budget and the forecast. It looks like that we ate up a lot of the what was going to go into the reserves, but I think we're actually positioned pretty well, maybe compared to some other localities. So, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Harshberger?
Yes, as Mr. Crane has mentioned, we have done a lot as it is now. We have a new economic development director who is doing a good job, and I know is taking a personal approach to many of our businesses. But the biggest thing, and you might have been, if anybody was following me on Facebook, which is about the only way we can really get a lot of our information out there, I proposed paying it forward. That we get gift certificates from our various small businesses. We pay them ahead of time. We paid some in cash ahead, buying their services ahead of time while they're closed, so that we're first in line. That's a win-win situation when they open up. You look at barbers. I don't need a barber, but you look at different services. This is a way, and I was amazed at the number of people who liked that and followed it and shared it on Facebook. So I think that's something we really can do on a one-on-one basis with our businesses to keep their revenue flowing, to keep their bottom line alive. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Forrest?
Yeah, it's certainly a challenging time and a very unique time. There's a lot of questions that none of us, I'm sure, ever thought we'd have to ask at a time like this. So I do think what the city is doing on Facebook, advertising which restaurants are serving takeout, which are available right now. And honestly, this is something where the community has to buy in, where we as citizens have to step up and support these local businesses that are still running. And I was actually going to mention something similar. Dr. Harshberger, Giles County is running a gift card program right now where you make a purchase right now of a gift card, $20, and 50% is added to that. So $30 is a $30 gift card that you get to buy for $20, but you always can't use it until the restaurants are open again. But that gives restaurants and businesses an opportunity to get some money, some revenue now, in a time when it's very difficult for them to do so. So I think a program like that could be very helpful. But obviously, again, you need buy-in from the community. need buy-in from local businesses.
Great, thank you so much. Onassis?
Hi, thank you. Great question. So I think it's all about resources and serving, in terms of allocating fiscal dollars to the problem right now. I don't want to, have a knee-jerk reaction. However, it's all about resources. We have the Paycheck Protection Program that's out there for these small business owners that they can actually get PPP loans through their local banks that are actually located here in Radford. So these are some resources they have available to them that the city can sort of serve as a conduit and a facilitator to connect them to those resources. When you think about resources in terms of city websites, city Instagram posts, city Facebook social media processes, we can promote these businesses while also encouraging, like Forrest alluded to, encouraging our citizens to buy in terms of frequenting these businesses that are open, like the Sharkies of the world, who you can pull up to their door and grab some great ribs there at Sharkies and those kind of places. So my biggest resource I see the city council can serve now is really a facilitator in terms of connecting these small businesses to these resources like PPP loans, connect them, sort of boosting their posts on social media programs, working with the local chamber of commerce to ensure that we do have all the businesses that are open and are still serving food and who are still like Sal's, who are still serving curbside delivery, pickup rather, for their restaurants. So the biggest thing we can do for them is support them by putting them in touch with the resources available to them as small business owners, and also broadcasting and promoting them on our chamber, our local websites and our social media platforms, but also being that voice for the community to say, hey, this is a time that we hunker down as a community and pull together and support our local businesses that support us so much, whether they support us by volunteering for, paying for my local sports teams that I coach, or what have you. It's our time to get back. And so that's why I think we can serve the biggest role is pointing them in the right direction, getting them connected to the resources available to them, while also supporting them financially by frequenting and patronizing their businesses. That's what.
Thank you. Any additional rebuttal or comments?
No.
Okay, great. So our next question, and we will start with you, Dr. Harshberger. Our next question is, circumstances have changed in just the past few weeks. Would you change any of the answers you gave in the voter guide, given new limitations on personal interaction and lost revenue?
Yes, I did talk about the coronavirus and the impact that had, and the fact that we have taken a big hit on our revenues. So yes, I did. I think in the guide, I did mention some of the things that I would do to help us through this hard time. And I think it's an enormous challenge. And as I said, I do like challenges. We have to try to get, and this was touched on there by Mr. Burris, I'm sorry, and that we have to do everything we can to get all of the aid that is available for the city, for our employers, to get them back to work. We went from having 8 unemployed on the unemployment rolls to 350 since the virus hit, from 8 to 350. So we've got to get that back. And to do that, we have to go after every program that's available that will help our people, and there are a lot of them. Onassis mentioned several of them, but that's important, and we need to put them to work on programs where we do have, our budget is going to be better than I thought it was. We are not going to be able to save any money in our reserves, but we're not going to, I think, we're hopeful that we won't have to withdraw any money from the reserves. In that budget, we do have ongoing projects that can put people to work, and I want to see that happen. I think we need to, because of the programs we have to for incentivize businesses, we already have in place, and the POP program and the incentive programs, we can really help them a lot, I think.
Thank you. Forrest?
Those
And
are
at
good.
any time, if you'd like me to repeat the question.
You read my mind.
Okay. Okay, so the question again is, circumstances have changed in the past few weeks. Would you change any of the answers you gave in the voter guide given new limitations on personal interactions and lost revenues? And I'll just kind of add to this just so that the viewers know is that you all answered the questions in the voter guide several weeks ago. And so we know that there have been new policies and things put forward. And so that's kind of the genesis of this question.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything I would specifically change. I listed as the top two challenges being for Radford's progress being economic development and moving forward with caution. And I think that's only been multiplied since the pandemic. And obviously, we have a need for economic development and economic redevelopment now. And at times like this, I think only cause us to need to move forward with all the more caution. So I think we need to be very, very careful with how we respond to this as a city. I think City Council needs to be very careful how we respond. Thankfully, it looks like we're not going to be able to increase taxes on our constituents this time, and I'm very grateful for that. I think this is a time where we definitely shouldn't even entertain that idea, as people are recovering from loss of employment and just a lot of additional struggles that were completely unforeseen. So generally speaking, no, I think if anything, it's enhanced. My focus, our challenges all the more now have to do with economic development, growth and regrowth, so to speak, as well as moving forward with extreme caution.
Thank you. Onassis?
Hey, can you repeat the question one more time, please, Karen?
Yes, I will. It's a mouthful. All right, so circumstances have changed in just the past few weeks. Would you change any of the answers you gave in the voter guide given new limitations on personal interaction and lost revenue?
Okay, I would say no. I think the key issue to remember is that while you're in a storm, it's okay to be in a storm, but it's not okay to be a part of the storm. And what that means is while we do find ourselves in a very precarious, unprecedented time in global history in terms of what this pandemic has done for us globally, we still have to stay rooted in the fact that we have to build a Radford that is best for our citizens. And what that means looks at economic development. Dr. Harshberger alluded to it earlier in terms of single family homes, in terms of increasing inventory. While we are in the midst of a very severe time, we cannot lose sight and focus on putting the processes and policies and actions in place now that prepare us for a better and more prosperous Radford future, so that if some event like this were to occur again, we're better prepared to withstand and withstand that brunt of that force that the pandemic has caused. I still double down on the fact that we do need to look at single family homes. We do need to look at economic development and redevelopment. We need to look at bolstering not only those businesses that we want to recruit to Radford, but also looking at supporting and developing those businesses that exist in Radford. I don't want us to lose sight. I don't want us to lose sight of those businesses who are located here by having so much foresight and forethought that we're trying to recruit new businesses into the community without remembering those businesses who were here for us initially.
Thank you. Andrew?
Thank you. Yeah, I tend to agree, I think, with the majority here in that the pandemic presents an acute problem. It's not going to last forever. I don't think you want to make huge changes to your planning, downstream based on a transitory sort of issue like this. We've seen now how we expect it to affect our budget, and I think the hope is that in the next quarter we don't really see much of an effect from this. So I think we need to continue looking down the road into the future growing Radford, making sure that people here have jobs and are able to get to their jobs. We need to be looking ahead, not in the past. I mean, obviously we're still in the middle of this event right now, but in 3, 4, 5 months from now, hopefully this is something that we're just remembering, and we've, maybe we've learned a few things from it, but I don't think we should be changing our plans and spinning on a dime trying to address a problem that is behind us. And hopefully by the time, if this election is held in November, by the time we would be in office, this would be in the past.
Thank you. Any further answers or rebuttals to that particular question?
Just that in every adversity lies the seeds of an opportunity. That's a Taoism, an Eastern philosophy, but we do need to look for the opportunities there. And I do think what we have is a city that's strong going into this. And that really gives us an edge, a competitive edge, when it comes to being able to still build on those successes.
Any others? Okay, so our next question, and Forrest, you will be able to answer this question first, and it's another mouthful, so like I said, if you need me to repeat, I will. So the question reads, what do you see as the future for the city of Radford? For example, we will grow, and if yes, on what basis? Do you have priorities for attracting businesses and for enhancing the quality of life, for solving problems of the affordable housing and food insecurity?
That's like 3 questions in one. Can you read that again, please?
The examples were like way more, but
That'd be
so
longer than the answer.
so the question, and I'll just read the question simply. What do you see as the future for the city of Radford? Starts with Mr. Height, yes.
Yeah. It's a good question, a good thought-provoking question. I do think we'll continue to see Radford grow slowly. I think the charm, the appeal of Radford is that it is a wonderful place to live. I spoke earlier. I've lived here 10 years now. My wife and I just bought a house here, and we love it here. This is home. This is where we want to spend our days, to where we want to raise our family. And I think that is the big appeal of Radford. And I think we can continue to enhance that. I think there's opportunity for growth, on the East End. Obviously, we're seeing Food City come in, should be coming in very shortly. But I believe that's where we need to be focusing, is making sure that we continue to be a community that thrives, that sticks together. That's something that's been really beautiful, and I think illustrative of the kind of community that we are, is how we've surrounded each other at a social distance since the coronavirus hit. Come together as a community. The simple things of putting bears in windows so that parents can drive their kids around and hunt bears, or Easter eggs, or what have you. We're a close-knit and tight family. We're a family as a community, and I think we need to continue to invest in this city as our family. So,
thank you. Next, Onassis.
Hi, I won't make you repeat that question. That was quite a mouthful for a question. But this is what excites me, is that question, because you think about Radford, we have resources abound in Radford. We have access to railway, we have access to waterways, and we have 2 exits from I-81 that leads right into Radford. And you think about what can we do in terms of leveraging those resources to attract new businesses to our community. You think about what can we do in terms of really playing on the resources that we have in terms of Bissett Park, how do we make that into a signature attraction in River Valley, where we're pulling in from all areas, Blacksburg, Christiansburg, that they're coming to Bissett Park to really engage and be activated in a beautiful setting. But then when you think about single-family homes, it's a multi-tiered approach. We have to do all these things, all the balls have to be juggling in the air at the same time, because we need single-family homes. We need to attract new businesses to come into Radford in terms of developing the West End former Foundry property. We also need to really play upon the resources that we do have here in Radford at our disposal. So I think it's about being creative in our thought processes. We do have Food City, as Forrest mentioned, coming in, which is great for our community in terms of adding more tax base to our budget. But it's really about how do we use our resources to make those resources produce revenue? How do we use those resources to leverage and create more revenue? And that's really what I would focus on as your city council member, in terms of looking at how can we be fiscally responsible at the same time building a Radford through the means of using our resources to generate more financial resources for our residents.
Thank you. Andrew?
Thank you. I'm going to kind of echo Onassis a little bit. I think that we are going to grow. I think we need to do that. We need to attract people to Radford, and I think one of the ways we could do that is responsible development of one of our major resources, which is the fact that we've got a river that runs around a large portion of our city. I think we should be trying to further develop that, provide activities or bring in businesses that would have activities or views of the river. I know that one of the places that my family likes to go and eat sometimes is, one of those restaurants that overlooks the river, but there aren't that many, they're on the other side of the river. They're not part of Radford City. If we had something like that on this side, I think we would love to go there. I think, focusing on the river and making that an attraction, making that something that's going to draw people to Radford from outside who come, visit for the day, to, spend money here in our city, and then they go home. And then some people will come and they'll say, hey, this is a really great place. They're going to agree with us, and they're going to come and they're going to want to live here, raise their families here. And I think that's one of the ways that we can really capitalize on this natural resource that we have, and bring people to our city and attract people and also businesses.
Dr. Harshberger?
Yes, I think one of the things, and I have worked on this for many years with the Virginia Department of Transportation and the road builders, and that is the private-public partnerships that you can establish. And a good example of that here in Radford is our Early Childhood Development Center. We have one of the finest in all of the New River Valley and the Roanoke Valley, and we have an NAACP accredited Early Childhood Development Center. I started out to identify the leadership that could do that, and we put together a plan, and that facility is built with no federal money, no state money, and no local money, and it is serving the community. Now, you have to look at those things. If you're going to have fees attached to them, and they have to have, then you have to find ways to even the playing field with stuff like that. And that would mean fundraisers, because we have a very generous populace. Fundraisers that can raise money to help those who aren't as affluent as some others to take advantage of those services and so on that we will be building and developing. I think that we have a great opportunity to do that down on the riverfront. Now, we've hesitated to develop the riverfront because of environmental concerns. But what I've been pushing for are commercial pods right on the river that can be developed, and not a rambling, spread out environmental mess, but a nice compact pod that can be built where you can have restaurants, maybe even a hotel right on the water. And that kind of thing can attract a lot of people to this city to take advantage of the quality of life that we have in this city.
Any comments or rebuttals from any of the other candidates? Okay, so our next question, and Onassis, you get to answer this question first. So this question reads, law enforcement officers nationwide are facing the challenge of dealing with increasing demands, including the current pandemic. Most police agencies across the nation are dealing with reduced applicant pools. If elected to City Council, what plans or ideas do you have to assist city staff with recruiting and retaining qualified applicants for the city? Would you like me to repeat?
Oh, no, I think I got the gist of it. It's in terms of how do we, with the increased demands put on our law enforcement personnel, how do we ensure that they're being replenished with new personnel to make sure that their mission going forward is sustainable? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, I have several friends who are in law enforcement here in Radford. Also, my cousin back home is a chief of police for Baldwin, Mississippi. So I understand what the law enforcement personnel, what they go through on a day-to-day basis. They're definitely being tasked and pulled in a different direction. It is not their normal mission objective in terms of protecting and serving our community. We're looking at how do we, enforcement people make sure they have their mask on or not gathering of more than groups of 4 or playing basketball, those kind of things. So they're being pulled in different directions. So I get that. One of the things I bring to the table is I've led teams as large as 500 people. So I'm accustomed to selecting talent. I'm accustomed to using alternative means of identifying and locating talent, whether it be through job fairs or online postings, what have you. So I would use that background to help my law enforcement personnel to find those candidates. And one of the great resources that we have available, we have a very robust National Guard and Reserve population here in our NRV. Those are people who are already trained, who can be easily converted and trained if selected to be a law enforcement personnel as well. So it's all about resources. I alluded to earlier. It's when on city. I see the role of City Council as that role that facilitates and connects our population, our departments, our first responders, our law enforcement personnel, connect them to the resources they need to do their job to the best of their ability and to serve this community. So my role would be to help facilitate that and to serve as a support for them, and while we help them to find individuals who are willing and deserving and able to serve in that law enforcement role. Thank you.
Andrew?
I'm sorry, can you?
To repeat?
Yes, please.
Okay. So law enforcement officers nationwide are facing the challenge of dealing with increasing demands, including the current pandemic. Most police agencies across the nation are dealing with reduced applicant pools. If elected to City Council, what plans or ideas do you have to assist city staff with recruiting and retaining applicants for the city?
Okay. Back in January, I actually attended an NAACP event in Montgomery County, and the person who spoke, or one of the folks who spoke at that event, was, I believe, the chief of police. I'm not sure which chief of police he was, but he talked to us about a program that they have where they recruit youth, people who are in graduating from high school. And they try to direct them into law enforcement programs and help them, make it through these programs. And they actually bring them, onto the force in a educational way to kind of learn how that police force operates and what their mission is. And I think that's a really great way to get people from the community, introduce them to that as an opportunity, and give them a path to achieve and to succeed and to come into law enforcement, see it as a goal that they could have. I think that's a really great thing, because I think we should be drawing from our local community as much as possible to fill the ranks of our law enforcement.
Thank you. Dr. Harshberger?
Yes, I want to say I'm a law and order man. Have been right along. We've had some wonderful things happen in Radford. For one thing, we built here a police station that is the envy of everybody around us. We are at the state of the art in everything about police work. The other thing is, as far as the facility goes, we have a university that has an excellent program, and we are interfacing with that program of police science as a feeder for us. Then we had to look at what we were dealing with on the case of interface with the public and how the public perceives our police department. Some years ago, the Citizens Police Academy that did that. We also worked with our resource officers in the schools in order to have them be role models for the students there in the schools. We looked at our career ladders there. What we found was we were well paid at the bottom, entry level, and well paid at the top in the senior level. We then worked on giving intermediate steps that would allow recognition and salary increases as they moved along through the mid ranks of the police department. And that has been successful. So we raised the salary scales of our police about 5 years ago and became very competitive salary-wise, which we hadn't been before that. We had to fight to get our people. Then our training programs, which are extremely important, we upped their ante on that, and we've been doing tremendous amounts of training of our police. Thank you.
Forrest?
So this is something, I can speak pretty personally to the strain and difficulty of the men and women who serve as law enforcement officers. My wife actually served as a police officer at Radford University, and she still serves with RUPD in the admin side of things. But it's a difficult job. It's tough. It's strain. The hours are long and hard, especially when you have to switch night shift or switch back and forth between night shift and day shift. It's a brutal job, and the men and women who serve, they deserve our utmost appreciation and respect. And so that's certainly something. One thing is ensuring that our community knows how hard our law enforcement officers are working. Make sure that our LEOs are well appreciated and that they are well paid. I think it's important to establish something of a connection with the Dublin Academy, the Dublin Police Academy. Having been through it on the other side with my wife, entering academy, one of the biggest things for her was whoever offers a job first and is willing to pay me, that's who I'll be willing to commit to, or early on. So as long as we're involved early in the process, there's a real solid opportunity for us to bring in the best students that come out of the Dublin Academy. And if we're there on time, ready to offer them a job, and we're offering them a job in a place like Radford, where we do have a state-of-the-art facility, where we have a new police chief who I believe is doing good things for us, then I think we have a real opportunity to be competitive.
Thank you. Any additional comments or rebuttals from you all?
Just that the Secretary of Health and Safety a few years back said that Radford had one of the top 3 police departments in the Commonwealth by their standards. So I think that does tell you, but we can't sit on our laurels on that. It's important that we continue, because it's very competitive out there for good police officers, and it's difficult to recruit. And we don't put a police officer out on the streets for 6 months after they're hired, because we put them through training for 6 months before we allow them to go out on the streets.
Okay, did everybody get a chance to answer that question? I just want to make sure I don't leave anybody out. Okay. All right, so our next question will start off with Dr. Hirschberger. You'll get to answer this question first. And the question reads, I'm sorry, I can't read. The lost revenues will require a re-examination of the budget. What will your funding priorities be? What projects in the current budget might be deferred?
Well, right now, it's the next year's budget. We'll have to worry about this year. We'll be able to, let me just say, we have a city manager who has won about 9 awards for his ability to really put together a responsive budget. He won one last year and the year before, top awards from the Virginia Municipal League and others. But we have a very, very tight budget, and it'd be very hard to look at what we cut back on. The thing is, we cannot start right now any really new projects until we are able to increase our revenue flows again. And our revenue flows are taking a big hit. That's our biggest challenge. So we will hold our own on what we're doing now. And we're very committed to McCarg School. We've got the funding in place. We know where that's coming from. But we are not in a position to do any new projects right now.
Forrest?
I meant with money.
Thank you. Forrest?
Yeah, I would echo that our city manager, David Ridpath, has done a fine job. The budget that he's come forth with is one that is stripped back, scaled back as much as he can, as possible. He cut out as much as he could. And so I don't think that I can specifically point out 1 or 2 things in this particular upcoming budget that needs to go for sure. Obviously, our big project right now is McCarg, and that's a necessary project and one that we're committed to right now. And so we need to ensure that is funded. I do think one thing that we should consider doing is something that Councilman Groteman actually recently proposed in a couple of meetings, increasing our transient or hotel tax, which is not a tax on Radford citizens at all, but would allow us for some increased revenue from our hotels. So it's a small revenue stream, but we're looking for little things right now because it is such a tight budget. So we're trying to bring in every penny that we can, every dollar that we can, and save every penny and dollar that we can. And I can say, as someone who is something of a numbers guy, I'm committed to looking in even more detail at the budget, at every budget, if elected councilman, to try to make sure that no money is wasted.
Thank you. Onassis?
Okay, there you go. Yes, well, I think I echo the sentiments of Forrest, of course, in terms of being fiscally responsible with the dollars we have available through the city. 2 things, Forrest alluded to one of those was hotel tax increase, also potential rather, and also cigarette tax. I mean, one of the things you look at, I looked at a little research and looked at the local areas in terms of county, cities, and surrounding NRVs. We have one of the lowest cigarette tax in the area. And so you talk about small streams of revenue that could be help increase our budget. That's definitely something I would be open to exploring in terms of finding ways to increase our taxes generated to help fund our budget. In terms of any cuts, I can't really foresee. I can't right now in terms of specific line item. I can't foresee a line item right now in terms of cutting. But I would partner with Dave Ridpath, who is an excellent city manager, in terms of looking at the length of these projects. I know the dollar amount can't change, but maybe looking at the length of the project. In my former days of overseeing large multi-million-dollar capital projects, you may not be able to spend all of the money in that initial year in terms of putting it towards a project if funds were limited, but you can look at spacing in terms of taking that same dollar amount, spacing out over time, and completing that project in phases versus in one lump sum. I know McCarg, we are committed to that. I do applaud the city for supporting those efforts of McCarg renovation. But in terms of looking at different line items, partnering with David Redpath, that'll be something I'll be definitely committed to in terms of working with the city council and with our city leaders to ensure that we are being fiscally responsible and looking at alternative means of generating more income, more tax income, whether it be from hotels or through cigarette taxes, or by being fiscally a little creative with the budget in terms of the pacing or phasing of the projects that need to be completed on a critical basis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew.
If you wouldn't mind repeating the question, I think I've lost the thread of it.
Sure. It reads, sorry, I just lost the question. The lost revenues will require a re-examination of the budget. What will your funding priorities be? What projects in the current budget might be deferred?
Okay, I mean, so specifically looking at that, I think, echoing everybody else, really, Mr. Ridpath put together a budget already for the coming fiscal year, and he's squeezed as much as he can out of it. I mean, obviously, we shouldn't be looking at any big new capital projects right now, and I don't think we are. But I think that anything that we've already started on, things like the school, the McCarg, I think we would be wasting money if we tried to delay that at this point. I think we need to keep going forward with that. So I don't know that there's much else that can be squeezed out of the current budget. I think Mr. Ridpath and the council have done a pretty good job already of trying to get us to where we're in a good position. And right now with that budget, I think the projection is that we will just not be putting anything into our reserves. We're not going to actually be dipping into them. So I think we're actually positioned pretty well with that projection for the next fiscal year.
Any other comments or rebuttals to that particular question?
May I? I agree with on the sin tax, which I think the cigarette tax, the last time we raised the cigarette tax, was under a lot of opposition. They said all of those people that wanted cigarettes would go across the river and buy them cheaper there. That never happened. I think that that's a real good thought. As far as spreading out, I taught project management and operated some of that. And when you spread it out, it's a balance, because it usually is a little more expensive to spread it out. You're usually spending a little more money when you spread out project. We found that with the McCarg School, and that's why we're putting in the mobile classrooms to speed up and truncate the length of time that's going to take to build it. But I certainly agree on the cigarette tax and on the others that were mentioned. Thank you.
Okay. If there are no other comments to that particular question, this is going to be our last question of the evening. And we're going to start this question for her. She'll be the first one to be able to answer this particular question. And the question reads, it's fair to be positive about Radford, but all cities have problems. For example, affordable housing and need for high-speed internet access. What do you see as Radford's problems, and how would you address them?
Could you read that one more time?
Yes. It's fair to be positive about Radford, but all cities have problems. For example, affordable housing and need for high-speed internet access. What do you see as Radford's problems, and how would you address them?
Yeah, I think we can relate to to both of those. The internet one, certainly something that I'm sure many can understand what's being mentioned there. And I think I think some of it has to do with economic development. I mentioned that before. We have seen progress, but we need to see more of that. You know, the businesses that come in on the east side of Main Street. I've lived here 10 years, and few of those businesses have lasted that long, the length that I've been there. Businesses come and go often there. West End is starting to look much better, but there's still more that can be done with regard to economic development. So I think that would probably be the biggest one that I would mention. And I think it's important that we partner with our businesses, that we partner with our Chamber of Commerce, that we continue to grow, continue to expand. We have seen some better things in these past few years, but there's still a lot of room for growth. And I'm certainly committed to doing whatever possible to further that.
Thank you. Onassis?
Yes, well, I feel that the two, I think I spoke to them earlier, the two issues I foresee as being, I hate the word problems, I like opportunities better because, you know, there's always some growth that's there. But single family homes in terms of increasing the inventory of single family homes here within Radford. And the second opportunity is definitely economic development. And I say economic development with a caveat. The caveat is I don't want to be so foresighted that we're focusing so much on new businesses coming to Radford that we don't support those businesses who are currently existing and operating here in our community and serve as a backbone of our economy. So I will make sure we, as a two-pronged approach, we're focusing not only on improving the amount of businesses in Radford, but also focusing on improving and assisting those businesses that are here. In terms of single-family housing, really looking at how do we be creative? How do we look at, maybe some rezoning of areas in terms of potential development? And that's one thing I would work hard for as your city council member, is working with the local business leaders, local developers or regional developers, and looking at possibly some PUDs or TIFs, some type of incentives that will drive some development here to the area. Because as you increase your population base, you in turn increase the amount of people who can consume in your community. And when you can increase the amount of people who consume in your community, you inherently increase the tax base and taxes that are generated from those activities. So my focus would be on increasing single family home development here in Radford, and also looking at economic development, not only for those new businesses that we're looking to recruit to Radford, but also for those businesses who are the backbone of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew?
Who is it?
It's for Andrew, sorry.
Oh.
Thank you. I think that the current situation, this pandemic, has actually shown us that there are still some disparities here in our community. I know that when the teachers were all told to stay home, and they were all told to start communicating with their students, reach out, find out who has access to internet. And I don't know what the final tally of that was, how many students had internet, had access to it, ready access to computers and things like that. But I think there is a portion of our population that doesn't have access to internet. And right now that means they don't have access to their government. They don't have access to this forum, for instance. Anyone who's in that situation is kind of locked out of a lot of opportunities in the modern age. I think that's a real problem. It's not just a problem here in Radford, obviously, it's a problem everywhere. But I think that we should be looking at creative ways to resolve that problem. And one of the things that I've heard from some of the folks that I've spoken to as I've been trying to reach out to citizens and let them know that I'm running for election, is that there's a subset of our citizenry that feels like they have been forgotten about. They feel like their needs are not necessarily being met. Whether we're always paving the same roads and forgetting about the ones near them, or things like that. So I think we need to make sure that we're taking care of all of our citizens in Radford, that we're making sure that everyone is getting the benefits. And it's not really a problem just to Radford, and it's more of a challenge that City Council should be addressing.
Thank you. Dr. Harshberger?
Yes, I think housing is one, and I think there's what we have around in this region are some really top-notch developers who have resources and do a good job of what they build. So I think we need to really partner with them. One of the things that's been said about Radford is we only have 10 square miles, and so we don't have a lot of space. Well, it depends on how you do it. For example, we're going to build this connector road between Tyler Avenue and Main Street. And when it first came out, the plan came out in a straight line from VDOT. They like straight lines. And so I fought and we rejected that first plan because that means cut and fill, cut and fill, cut and fill. And every time you do that, you lose property for development of housing. And you also create a speedway. So the new design follows the contours of the earth. And we can get the owners of this land, and I think we can because they're public-minded people. I think we can have that land to help us develop new housing in those areas. And that's a nice area to do it in. It'll be near our new supermarket and all kinds of things. The other thing is the internet. And I recognize that we've had problems with the internet, and we do. And we continue, like a lot of other communities. But we are right now partnering with Montgomery County on a grant that is looking at the inequities between different areas of the Montgomery County and the city of Radford. And we're looking for that result, and we want to jump on that and move with that with great alacrity. So we have a housing study that's coming out, and it's just being dropped on us, and it's a great study because, see, the city of Radford is a reverse bedroom community. We have a lot of people working in Radford and living outside of Radford rather than the other way around.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hirschberger. Well, thank you all so much. We had a lot of really great questions from the community, and we're going to move now into our closing statements. And we did our opening statements, and we started alphabetically from the beginning. We're going to start our closing statements alphabetically from the end and work our way up. So each of you all will have 2 minutes for a closing statement, and we will start first with Forrest.
Thank you. Thank you again to the League of Women Voters, to the NAACP, to my fellow candidates, and thank you again to those of you who stuck around to the end and heard us speak on important issues for our city moving forward. It seems like the world stopped, but it hasn't. We still have important things to decide, so thank you for tuning in. I think I can safely say that all four of us generally want the same thing. We want to see Radford move forward, to see Radford thrive. The differences have to do with our vision, how to make that happen, as well as our worldviews. So I hope tonight that I've been able to show you a vision, the vision that I believe will work best for Radford, a vision of economic development, of forthrightness from your council, protecting individual liberty, and of doing everything possible to keep the tax burden on Radford citizens as low as possible. Please check out my website, forestheight.com, or my Facebook page, Forest Height, to learn more. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. The best way to do that is probably via email. You can send me any question, info@forestheight.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I'm striving to be honest and accessible with you, my neighbors, and I promise if I'm elected, I will continue to strive to be honest and accessible with you. One of the things that I've promised to do on the literature that I can't hang on doors is to explain every notable vote that I take on council. If I'm elected, I want you to know what I'm voting on and why I voted that way. And I also want to hear from you. I want to hear from you now, and if elected, I want to hear from you then. I want to learn from you. There's so much that I've gotten to learn in interacting with so many of my neighbors here in Radford, and I want to continue to do that. So again, I'm very grateful for your time, and I hope to have your vote on or before or after May 5th. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Hirschberger?
Yes, well, thank you. And the other thing, I want to thank, again, the League of Women Voters and NAACP. This has been a wonderful opportunity. It's also been inspirational to me. I am so happy to see such high quality candidates for this office. I'll exclude myself unless you want to include me. But I really am thrilled that we have this many good people stepping up to want to make Radford a better place. I really want to, I think you know, I've been on council for quite a long time. And I hope you can tell from tonight that I haven't been sitting idly by. I try to stay on top of everything with council. I try to stay knowledgeable about what is going on, and I try to use that knowledge to help move the city forward. And that's what I will continue to do if you will be kind enough to reelect me. And by the way, if you know of anybody that wants 9,500 combs, I've got them. They all say have my name on them. But I will say this, they're unbreakable. And they're unbreakable because they're like me, they're flexible. And I have no earthly use for them. So if you know anybody that's in the market for those, I'd like that. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure being here tonight with all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next, Andrew.
I also would like to thank you, Karen, and my fellow candidates. And I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and the NAACP for hosting this forum. I really appreciate the opportunity to answer these questions and get in front of at least a subset of our voter base. And I would like to, as Forrest had mentioned, I would like to encourage people to reach out to me. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Andrew Crane for Radford City Council, or I have a website as well, Andrew Crane, the number 4, radfordcitycouncil.com. And send me an email, send me a message on Facebook, ask me a question, put a post on my page, because I want to know what issues concern our citizenry. And if I don't have an answer, I'll investigate. I'll do my due diligence and then come back with a response. But I do want to hear from everybody, and I think communication with government and prospective government in this case is really important for everybody. I'll try to reach out to as many people as I can before Election Day, whether it be in May or November. And if you do see a strange number on your telephone come up, it may be me. I'll be trying to reach as many people as I can. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. And Onassis.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, Karen, and thank the League of Women Voters and the NAACP for hosting this platform and giving us a voice to the city of Radford. This time is unprecedented. We don't know what's going on in terms of the total impact the pandemic will have on our community. But just remember, this is for the short-term period. I think Andrew alluded to it earlier that this too will pass. But just remember that I'm asking for your vote because I want to serve the city of Radford, because I have a heart and a passion for this city. I have a vision that includes increasing the city single-family home inventory in our community. I have a passion and a history and experience with development, economic development, working with establishments, with city managers, with city mayors, what have you, different stakeholders that will help guide and lead Radford in the right direction. I have a fiscal background in terms of capital budgeting and operating budgeting experience that I think will serve the city of Radford well in the role of city council. And at the end of the day, I'm pragmatic and I'm practical. I have a sincere desire to serve this city. So I ask for your vote, whether it be on May 5th or we find out of this later. Whatever that time will be, I would ask for your vote because I'm here to serve all citizens of Radford and be that voice for the voiceless. And also, shameless plug, I do have some yard signs available as well. I don't have a need for a comb or any combs. I'm similar to Dick Harshberg, Dr. Harshberg in that regard. So not many combs happening at this head, but I do have yard signs available, and also have, and if you have any questions for me, please reach out to me at my Facebook page, Onassis Barres City Council, or email me directly at onassisdbarres@gmail.com. Just reach out to me. I'm very accessible. hard to not recognize 6'4", so it's pretty easy to recognize we have a community. So I do thank you for this time to share. I thank my fellow candidates for opening up and giving me more insight regarding your thoughts and views on how you would serve in the role of city council. And I do thank those who are listening at home for your comments, and I've seen in the Q&A, and also for the questions that you provided to the League of Women Voters and NAACP prior. So I just want to thank you for this time, this opportunity. I ask for your vote, and just know that I'll be here to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I'm going to ask everybody at home to give all of our candidates just a great big hand clap. I think they did an excellent job this evening answering some really tough questions from you all. So I appreciate and thank you all for that.
And we all should give you a big a handshake, clap. Here we are.
Very,
You
very
did
kind.
an excellent job.
Very kind of you. But thank you all again. To all of you who have logged in and are watching from home, we appreciate your time and for all the tough questions that you asked. I appreciate your grace in our technical difficulties, but know that we are going to post this on Facebook just as soon as we are able to this evening. And just a reminder to everyone that you can download the voter guides at vote411.org or on either of our websites for the League of Women Voters or the Montgomery-Radford City County branch of the NAACP. And if Election Day is in fact on May 5th, just a reminder that absentee ballot, the last day to get one, is going to be on April the 28th. And then just one final reminder, on Thursday, we're doing this again with the school board. All 5 candidates will be participating, and so we're looking forward for an excellent forum just like we had this evening. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
God bless.